Hello, I'm going to show you how to do the triangular shoulder wedge in sweaters like the Amazing Technicolor Dreamsweater. So I'm going to show you how to pick up and knit in this corner, and we're going to work this garter stitch triangular wedge while attaching it to each side of the front and back of the fabric. So I'm going to show you on this neutral, more solid sample. I've already done one shoulder on the sample in yellow. This is my color C, and this striped gray and brown with white stripes is the back of my sweater. And the front is solid white. And here is my V-neck shaping, right there. So I just did the left shoulder in yellow. I did that first section there, and I'm going to flip and do the right shoulder. The left and right shoulder are worked the same way. It's just referring differently to the front and the back, so there are different written instructions, but I'm going to show you how to do the right shoulder. We're going to begin with color C. I have my yellow strand of color C here, and we're going to begin looking at the right side of the fabric. This is my back, the white is my front, and here is where it splits to form the gap. This is my sleeve. We're going to start at this corner, at the gap, the front and the back of the right shoulder. I'm going to pick up and knit 2 stitches with color C right into the fabric, into the gap. One and 2 stitches. And the next row is going to be a wrong side, so we're going to turn our work to the other side and knit 1 and slip, slip, knit. We're going to slip the first stitch purlwise, and then we're going to slip a selvage stitch from the front. So here we have the selvage, those single stitches from that slip one with yarn in front, on the front side. And we're going to pick up that first selvage stitch and place it onto the right needle. So I used my left needle to help me slip that stitch. You can also take the right needle and go straight front to back into the front there. And we're going to slip, slip, knit. So knit those 2 stitches together. There we go. This first bit is very fiddly, but if you can stick through it, it'll get a lot easier as we go. Turn work to right side. Slip 1 with yarn in front, then place the yarn in back to knit. So first, the yarn is in front, slip the first stitch purlwise, and then place the strand of yarn to the back, going between the needles. And we're going to do a make 1 left. So make 1 left, lift that bar onto the left needle and knit it through the back loop. There we go. Slip 1 with yarn in front, slip 1, and then slip another stitch, a selvage stitch from the back. Here are the selvage stitches, and we're going to get that first selvage stitch. Slip 1 with yarn in front, slip a selvage stitch, then turn to work the wrong side. Next row, wrong side, knit 2 together, the picked up selvage stitch together with the slipped color C stitch. There's our C stitch, selvage stitch. Knit those 2 together. Knit into the front and back of the next stitch, and another slip, slip, knit. Slip 1 purlwise. Here I'm going to use my right needle to go into that next selvage stitch and knit those 2 together. Now I'm going to work row 1 right side, slip 1 with yarn in front, then place the yarn in back to knit, knit to last stitch, slip 1 with yarn in front. There's the last stitch. Slip one with yarn in front, and pick up a selvage stitch from the back edge and slip it onto the right needle. Here's our next selvage stitch. We can see this one was already worked into. So the next one, we slip. Turn to work row 2, wrong side. Knit 2 together. Knit to last stitch. And another slip, slip, knit. Slip one purlwise, slip the next selvage stitch. This one was already worked into. This is the next one. And slip, slip, knit. So we're basically knitting those two. It looks like it's knitting through the back loop. And we're going to repeat rows 1 and 2 twice more. So every 2 rows has a garter ridge. So we're going to repeat those 2 rows twice more until we see 3 garter ridges. Slip one, with yarn in front, and then move the yarn in back to knit to the last stitch. Slip one with yarn in front. Ooh, getting all tangled. And slip the next selvage stitch with yarn in front. Knit 2 together, knit to last stitch, slip one, slip the next selvage, knit 2 together. One more repeat, I'll show that one more time. With yarn in front, move the yarn in back. Sometimes when you're here, you might be tempted, especially if you're throwing English style, the yarn's in front, slip one. You might want to bring the yarn this way, but that'll create a bump. Bring the yarn on top of the needles, this way. To continue knitting to last stitch. Let's see, where are we? Slip one with yarn in front. Slip selvage with yarn in front. The last wrong side row before row 7. Knit 2 together. Knit 1 to last stitch. Slip 1. Slip the selvage. 2 together. Great. Now we're ready for row 7. We're going to do 2 increases on this row. Again, we're going to slip 1 with yarn in front. Work a knit front back, knit into the front and the back of the stitch. And we're going to knit to last 2 stitches. Here in the first row 7, we only have 2 stitches left, so we don't have to knit to the last 2 stitches. We're already there. So go ahead and do a knit front back, slip 1 with yarn in front, slip that next selvage with yarn in front. And here's row 8. Wrong side, knit 2 together, knit to last stitch, slip 1, where is it? There we go, slip that selvage stitch, 2 together. Now once you finish row 8, I highly recommend putting a stitch marker after row 8. So it might help to work one more row to make some wiggle room for that stitch marker. So let's repeat rows 1 through 8. Repeat the last 8 rows. So I slipped and I'm knitting, and I slip and I slip. So this is row 1 again, and there's a little bit of room to place a stitch marker. So place a stitch marker after that last garter bump. So this will mark the completion of 8 rows. And then you can count as you're repeating those 8 rows. You want to be able to count 1, 2, 3, starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4 garter bumps. And then you'll be ready to repeat rows 1 through 8 again until you finish all of those shoulder selvage stitches. So you'll make a wedge all the way until the front starts to do its decrease. So here on my left shoulder, I got that nice triangular wedge, garter stitch, knit while it was attached to the back and the front, and knit until you reach the beginning of those front decreases. This is the straight line without decreases. The decreases began here, or increases, depending on. But yeah, the decreases going down to the center, stop before you get to those, and then you have your shoulder wedge. And the inside looks nice and neat. There are those selvage stitches. Alrighty, so happy knitting, and I hope you enjoy your sweater.